Sukma Hairinisa,
Hadir, Pak.
kemudian Prabawati Sapta Ramadhani,
Hadir, Pak.
kemudian kayaknya paling semangat ini ya Prabawatinya, suaranya paling kencang. Virus Dia Rabani, Virus Dia Rabani, belum ada. Siti Mutmainatul Aini, belum ada. Ini tadi ada 3 belum ya. Terakhir Kania Ratna Arimbi.
Ada, Pak.
Oke. Jadi yang belum ada itu tadi ada Angela Kurnia Janis. Angela Kurnia Janis. Belum ada. Niputu Intan Maha Ayudianti. Terus tadi Gina Askia.
Ada, Pak.
Oke. Oh sorry. Berarti Zahra Atia tadi yang nggak ada ya. Zahra Atia. Virus Dia Rabani.
Here.
Oh ya, oke ada. Siti Mutmainatul Aini. Oke, belum. Ini kalau dalam ini saya ada 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tolong di untuk namanya tolong di rename ya sesuai dengan aturan dari panitia. Ini yang public speaking ini atas nama siapa ya? Tolong sekali lagi di rename sesuai dengan aturan panitia sehingga kita gampang melihat nanti siapa yang hadir. Oke, kita sambil menunggu yang lain. Jadi sekali lagi peraturannya sama. Jadi satu persatu peserta nanti akan diminta untuk masuk ke breakout room. Setelah selesai tampil, peserta dipersilahkan untuk keluar dari breakout room. Oke. Karena peserta pertama sudah hadir, ya, yaitu atas nama Friski Humaira.
Iya, Pak.
Peserta kedua Zahra Atia belum ada ya. Ya, Zahra Atia belum ada, berarti Angela Kurnia Janis juga belum ada. Intan Maha Ayudianti belum ada. Terus Virus Dia Rabani belum ada. Siti Mutmainatul Aini. Berarti baru ada 5 orang peserta yang belum. Sorry, ini dengan siapa?
Virus Dia Rabani.
Oh, Virus. Oke, berarti ada 4 orang berarti yang belum hadir. Siti Mutmainatul, Niputu Intan Maha Ayudianti, Angela Kurnia, dan Zahra. Ya, jadi kalau misalnya nanti setelah Rizky ini ketiga orang itu, terus karena kebetulan mereka itu ada di urutan 1, 2, 3, nah belum hadir, dan jika itu terjadi maka urutan tampilnya akan berubah menjadi Gina Askia. Itu untuk urutan tampilnya. Oke, untuk mempersingkat waktu, kita akan segera mulai. Mohon LO dialokasikan kami untuk masuk ke breakout room. Tidak marah-marah sih, karena dia ngerti bahasa Indonesia. Atau yang ngobrol, streaming. LO di ruang ini sudah siap? Vina Reski Mahardani. Oke. Bisa dipersiapkan. Sudah mulai streamingnya ya? Vina, streamingnya sudah mulai? Halo Vina, masih di mute?
Baik, Pak. Lagi share screen dulu.
Ya. Oke.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Wait, I will set camera.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
We're going to start in 3, 2, 1.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. The Honorable of the Judges, NHPEO 2021, the Honorable, the Master of Ceremony, and all of my friends. Imagine we can get everything we want. Imagine we can say everything what's on our mind. Imagine we can create any postures about the government. I think we got everything in here in Indonesia. My name is Rizky Humaira and I'm from Polytechnic of Surakarta, Indonesia. Today, I would like to talk about democracy and freedom of speech as my best friend. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we should be very lucky living in Indonesia because we have democracy. Demos means from people and kratos means from the power. The term of this means the power of people, or known as the way of governing which depends on the will of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, democracy is related to freedom of speech. When I was a child, my parents tell me that I could choose everyone that I want. For example, Barbie, or clothes, or the course that I want to take, even my future. This is the simple example that democracy exists in our daily life. But there are so many people, teenagers out there, who cannot choose what they want because of the restriction of what their parents want. And if they don't do what their parents want, their parent will get upset. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we live in Industrial Revolution 4.0 where everything can be accessed on the internet. We can cure our curiosity by search on Google or Facebook or Instagram for free. Internet is not only used for searching something, but also for delivering our opinion. There are so many users on internet, or maybe a netizen, who type or who says everything what's on their mind. Sometimes they spread love, but sometimes they spread hate. Based on the Digital Civility Index, or DCI, shows that Indonesian netizen is known as the most impolite netizen in Southeast Asia. Wow, that's an achievement, everyone, but that's not good. Another example, every year is our friends, the student of college. They give their opinion by doing a demonstration on the street. Sometimes they bring a microphone to share the oration, or sometimes they are willing to get hit up under the sun, or there are some who faint. They do that because they protest to the government as the disagreement of the new law or the injustice to the low-income people. But sometimes the demo went brutal. They could burn every facility on the road, and they could bring a sharp weapon. That's so dangerous. My audience, democracy led us to be an understandable people. If we share our opinion, then we are rejected. We have to accept it. And democracy teach us to be a listener. If there are people that critique us, we have to listen to them, hear them, and we have to understand what they want. My audience, don't be afraid to give some opinions. Based in Law Number 9 of 1998 says that freedom to express opinion in public is one of the human rights. Wow, so we can say everything what we want. Yes, correct. Absolutely. But we have to remember, if we live in Indonesia, we have so many rules, we have so many norms, and we have the norms of polite. This norm is related to our nation looks that is polite. This norm also teach us how to give an appropriate comment and not to give an inappropriate command. My audience, we have to be able to select which one is the appropriate command or inappropriate command. And we have to be wise to critique someone or give an opinion to someone, and be wise and make sure that it doesn't hurt anybody's feeling. If there is our friends who they give an opinion but in inappropriate ways, tell them that we live in Indonesia. We have so many rules, we have so many norms that we should obey. And together, we're able to be a friendly nation if we are able to give our opinion, but not forgetting the norm. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is a people who thinks that, oh, I think I could say everything what I want, even though it's in inappropriate way, and we have told them, is that a democracy or democracy? Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is all my speech. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope we can take the lesson from it. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. You may leave the room. Hi, welcome. Would you like to turn on your audio? Okay.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, the Honorable Judges.
Wait a minute. We're not done yet with the...
Oh, okay.
Okay, are you ready? Yes, muted. Zahra?
Check. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, Your Excellency, the Honorable Judges, let me introduce myself. My name is Zahra Tia. I'm from the Polytechnic of Health, Ministry of Health, Jakarta 3. Today, I'm going to deliver my speech. It is about the freedom of speech, the democracy.
Okay, we're gonna start in 3, 2, 1.
When I was a kid, ladies and gentlemen, when I was a kid, my mom told me to dream big, be strong, speak louder. Well, speak louder. I ended up yelling at everyone I met. My sister, my brothers, even my pets. I mean, what do you expect from a 4-year-old little girl? I grew up, I met a lot of people, I learned something new, something that I've never experienced before. I know that the word speak louder cannot be translated into literally yelling at other people. It is that how brave we are to speak our mind out, to express something that we want that come up in my mind. It is the freedom of expression. I thought it would be so cool to have this kind of rights. I grew up, little did I know, the things that I'm most scared of. This thing actually happened. A shrinking space of freedom, my freedom of expression, of saying something happened. I mean, the question is that, has the government played any role in protecting the rights of citizens, especially in Indonesia? How is the government implementing the so-called word of freedom of speech? Well, before we talked about it, let us begin with what is democracy? Well, the word democracy itself means to rule by people. Well, a democracy is a system where people can change the rules in a peaceful manner, and the government is given the right to rule because people say so. Now, why is this important? Why is the freedom of speech is so important? Ladies and gentlemen, knowledge. Knowledge is power. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, allows people to access information about current situations, current events that public interest is. The fact is that from a recent data that I've read on the Jakarta Post news, found that more than 60% people, they felt more afraid to express themselves, to express their opinion, rather than the past. They are afraid of these current situations. I mean, why? The fact is that what happened to freedom of speech, my freedom, our freedom of speech? Aren't we living in a country of democracy in which freedom of expression and speech is the most crucial part? Take a look at those people. People who are stating the fact, their state of mind, what they want to express. I don't have to say the name, but let's talk about Bintang Emon maybe, or Jerings. Most of the people that stating their mind ended up being in jail. How pathetic. Ladies and gentlemen, actually, with freedom of speech, we can actually learn from another country. A lot of country, the developed country, having freedom of speech for their population, for their community. Also, there are so many people here in Indonesia that are capable, they are able to give the freedom of speech. Not to mention Maudi Ayunda. She's smart. She gives the freedom of her speech, but it is so sad if we don't have the right to deliver, to express our mind. Ladies and gentlemen, the freedom of speech is our right. Freedom of speech, you don't have to be afraid to talk about yourself, your mind, expressing it. Our job is that we have to explain with a manner. We don't have to be afraid of talking to public, to everyone. Like Pharrell Williams said, your first name is free and your last name is dumb. It is always freedom in our body. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all from me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, judges.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You may leave the room.
Okay. I'm going to leave now. Thank you very much.
Hello, bisa tunggu sebentar ya. Salah satu juri kami ke portal Kemenlu. Ya, bisa tunggu sebentar ya.
Ya, Pak.
Halo, jurinya sudah komplit.
Oh iya, baik Pak.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah, hello. Am I audible?
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
Indonesia. What is the first thing that you will say if anyone asking you about Indonesia? Archipelago state, a country that has a lot of cultures such as dances, languages, or culinary and others. Then finally, it will reverse to democracy. So what is democracy? Democracy is form of a government that allow people to express themselves, where all citizens has the equal right in decision making that could change their lives. Democracy allows the citizens to participate, whether it's directly or through representative, in formulation, development, and lawmaking. In Indonesia, we have the right to choose who's going to be our leader or the representative in our region. It means that we have a freedom of speech. According to CNN Indonesia, updated October 2020, Southeast Asia Freedom of Expression Network or SafeNet said that the people's rights to freedom of expression in digital space is getting worse in Indonesia. The citizen that reported is dominated by the common people that work as private employees, housewife to fishermen. These people is reported because they uploaded inaccurate contents about COVID-19. Hoaxes are divided by two, misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is the information that inaccurate and false that's spread by people, but they don't know if that information is inaccurate and false, while disinformation is the information that deliberately spread by people and they know that the information is false. So based on this, do we really have a right to express our opinion and what we believe? According to 1945, 28 verse 3 said, every people has a right of freedom to association, assembly, and in issuing opinions. So yeah, we have that right. Then why there's still a lot of cases happen when people try to use right? Well, or AKA, what is mean to have that right? Be a smart people that not just knowing you have that right, but also know exactly how to use it in a proper way, time, and place. Having the freedom of speech does not mean you can abuse and dehumanize others, right? When we are expressing our opinion, it also doesn't mean that other law and prevailing norms are stopped being enforced. Freedom of speech doesn't mean it insulting everyone as you wish just because it's your opinion. Think, believe, and say anything you want. But you have to make sure yourself is ready to the consequences that waiting after that. And I'm Angela. Here's my freedom of speech. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You may leave the room.
Okay, thank you.
Oke, bisa lanjut.
Untuk Pak Furkan belum masuk di room, Pak.
Oh, sorry. Ya, dia terpental. Tunggu sebentar ya. Sebentar, salah satu jurinya masih belum bisa masuk ya. Oh, nanti kalau sudah masuk bisa langsung mulai ya.
Iya, Pak.
Hi there, I'm in.
Oke.
Okay, we're gonna start it. Are you
Yep.
ready?
Okay, before I'm starting my speech, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And for information, I have choose the topic which the title is Democracy and Freedom in Indonesia.
Okay. Are you ready? We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
Excuse me, you are still muted.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Excuse me, can you put your camera lower because we cannot see. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, can I start?
Yep.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
In early June, we were surprised by the BEM UI post that saying Jokowi is the king of lip service. This also provoked pros and cons. This post was called an insult to the president, but on the other hand, this is seen as a form of freedom of speech, criticizing the government action in the response to the pandemic. This issue is not the first time that the citizens have been targeted for criticizing related government. The digital attack and any letters called the receipts in the form of hacker attack from the WhatsApp and Instagram account, and also many critics who receive inappropriate treatment from the government. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think that this problem is a violence of the democracy and freedom of speech in Indonesia? From here, we all can see that the stage of democracy in Indonesia, even though we all know that based on the Indonesian Constitution, Article 1, number 2, sovereignty has sovereignty. I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous. Can I restart again?
You just continue. You may not restart because the time is running because there is no technical problem.
Article 1, number 2. Sovereignty shall be placed in the hands of the people and be executed according to the Constitution. Don't let the sovereignty in question close the freedom of opinion in front of the community. Indonesia is in a democratic emergency. This is questionable. Do we have a freedom of speech? Are we obliged to agree? Either the university student will be attacked or the journalists who are often threatened by high-level injury leaders. Criticism is no longer seen as a process of analyze, of evaluated to increase understanding or help to improve someone's works, in this case of the government's performance. On the contrary, the criticism is seen as a critics as a threat and an insult to the government. As a country where we are known as a democratic country, we should have freedom of speech, right? The citizens should have the same right when making a decision, because decision can change their life. Due to fact of freedom, they are only owned by a few of people who have the privilege. The citizen are there to support the government. This is the citizen who gives them the mandate to solve their problems, not to add the fuel to the fire. Ladies and gentlemen, in this era, we can only say yes, and only yes to all the government rules. The society has to be sharp and have a critically thinking about all the policies that adopted. Don't let the politics become a burden and a problem for the community. As the citizen who realize the democracy and emergency freedom for in Indonesia, we have to express critical and scientific opinion on behalf of these people who are secretly slaves to promote the prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, from the explanation about that I can conclude that we know that Indonesia, that freedom of speech has been restricted in Indonesia. We cannot criticize the government or anyone in power at will, because Indonesia is in a democracy emergency. But don't despair, because the welfare of our community is our hands. That's why we are Indonesia, one love and one life. That's all from my speech. Thank you and have a nice day.
Okay, thank you. You may leave the room. Hello, welcome.
Yes. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you remember the fourth principle of Pancasila? That's right, democracy led by the wisdom of the representative of the people. But do you know what that principle means? Maybe we will say that the principle is about deliberation. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just about deliberation, but this principle is also our basis of speeches for freedom of speech. Democracy is the government for the people, by the people, and of the people. These rights of expression give us a right to criticize. Freedom of speech give us something that more than just experience, that more than existence. This principle gives us a reason to live with dignity. It makes us a social being. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Gina Askia, and today I will discuss why the freedom of speeches and democracy are very important. The point that I will discuss are freedom of speech is our right, and freedom of speech is important in our lives. Okay, let's go. There is one thing that can be important. Okay, so what that be important? This right to speech, the freedom of speech is our right as Indonesian citizen. As we know that Indonesia is the democracy country. Like I said before, democracy is the government for the people, of the people, by the people. It ensures that everyone are able to give their stories. Okay. However, it should be remembered that Indonesia, the democracy implemented in Indonesia is Pancasila democracy, not Western style liberal democracy that which. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, I can't explore my speech. I can't. I think that's, I can. Oh, I can. Oh, I just forgot. Oh, no, I can say what I want. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I think that's all about my speech because I forgot. Oh. Bisa lupa semuanya. Tapi ini nggak boleh langsung dibolehin leave, itu masalahnya.
Okay.
Yes.
Done. Thank you.
Yes.
You may leave the room.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we move to the next.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
The honorable judges and the company. For thousands of years, polio was a frightening specter for mankind before it was finally conquered in 1955. In that year, Jonas Salk, a virologist from the United States, succeeded in creating an effective polio vaccine for the first time ever. In that year, there's an interview. Salk was asked who actually owns the patent for the vaccine he created, and he said, I would say the community owns it. No patents. Can you patent the sun? History repeats itself. Deadly virus SARS-CoV-2 strikes humankind again, and COVID-19 become a pandemic as we are all suffering right now. The pandemic has been going on for over a year, a nightmare that was never expected by any humankind in this century. For more than 4 million people in the whole world have died, and the rest of the world suffered. Prior to this pandemic, many developing countries were still suffering from poverty, hunger, and lack of resources. We can see now how chaotic their conditions are in the midst of this disaster. With the limitation of the developing countries, the developed countries that have made progress in the dealing of the pandemic should help. But in reality, it is still a difficult thing to do because one big obstacle, which is intellectual property. Intellectual property is the product of the human intellect, including creativity concept, inventions, industrial methods, literature, trademarks, symbols, names, brand, etc. And when we're talking about medicine and vaccine, we're talking about a patent, an exclusive right granted for an invention. Generally speaking, a patent provides the patent owner with the right to decide how or whether the inventions can be used by other people or other countries. We'll begin by knowing why suspension of intellectual properties are needed and what makes it so hard to be achieved and what is the solution to this problem. First, inequality in vaccination worsened the pandemic situation right now. The recent rapid development of COVID-19 vaccines giving us hope in addressing the worst pandemic in 100 years. However, many countries in the global south are facing great difficulties in accessing vaccines, partly because of restrictive intellectual property law. There is currently a huge gap in countries' levels of COVID-19 vaccination, and that depends on wealth. While the US and the UK have now fully vaccinated almost half of their population, other countries, such as smaller African nations, have reported that the vaccine they got are far less than 1 dose per person in their population. Let's imagine that. As a result of this gap, while case numbers in the UK and US continue to decline or have stabilized at a comparatively low level, countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, and even Indonesia, which had all reported a significant drop in infections, recently suffering from a third wave of COVID-19 cases.
India and South Africa have asked the World Trade Organization, or WTO, to temporarily suspend the patent for health products related to COVID-19, including vaccines, so that the developing countries can have easy and low-cost access to vaccines. But unfortunately, only rejection that came from rich countries such as the United States, Britain, Australia, Canada, and European Union countries. According to this group, patent suspension will only hinder research and innovation for handling COVID-19. Well, that reason that rich countries don't want to give up their patents doesn't make any sense. According to Labonte, a professor from the University of Okawa, rich countries that hold such extraordinary numbers of vaccine doses don't really need them. Canada, for example, reported by the Bloomberg since December 2020, last year, Canada has been able to have a vaccine dose 4 times than its population. And the delegation from South Africa said that more than 70 million US dollar of public funds had been donated to the research process to overcome this pandemic. So it makes sense when the proceeds from the public funding are used for the benefit and the public health as well. However, the reality, the giant actors, the rich countries, the pharmaceutical industry still refuse to suspend patents during this pandemic. But no one is safe until everyone is safe. The idea that until COVID-19 is under control globally, or efforts to combat it in isolated areas are meaningless because new variants continue to emerge. Besides them producing new vaccines at a large scale, it is necessary to vaccinate everywhere in the world in the shortest possible time before any new variants can damage the whole world. Rich countries should suspend intellectual property on medicine and vaccine to help fight this global crisis. In solving this pandemic, everyone should work together, help and strengthen one another. The key role to end this pandemic lies in humanity. Sharing is the right thing to do. People's lives should be prioritized over future profit or financial gain. I'm Sukma Hedinisa from Polytechnic as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You may leave the room.
Okay.
Ini ada juri yang masih kelempar keluar ya, Pak
I'm
Hakim.
in, sir. I'm in.
Oh, sudah?
Ya.
Oke. Bisa disiapkan selanjutnya ya.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
For the judges, is it audible?
Yes.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
Honorable judges, respected audiences, and everyone here today, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank the Almighty God. It is because of Him we are all able to attend this contest. Secondly, may salawat and salam always be delivered to Prophet Muhammad SAW, who have brought us from the darkness to this bright modern era that we're living today. And last but not least, I would like to thank to the judges for giving me this very special opportunity to compete in this contest. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. My name is Prabhawati and I'm from Health Polytechnic of Pontianak, speaking here in front of you all to deliver my speech. I hope you are all feeling as amazing as I am right now. Well, many countries in the world implement a democratic system in their government. One of the countries that implement democracy is our country, namely Indonesia. Indonesia is a legal country that implements a democratic system. Democracy, in a simple definition, is a freedom to express the aspiration of the people or citizen of the country. As a democratic country, apart from giving its people freedom of opinion, the state must also guarantee the safety and welfare of its people. Not only that, the state must also protect citizens' rights, including freedom of speech and expression. Freedom of expression is something that should run smoothly in a democratic system. However, currently the Indonesian government is making a regulation with the level ITE regulation, which of its main future is fully undemocratic policy and limits the freedom of speech. Why? Like so many cases when many people who try to criticize the government are always blocked by the ITE regulation, which future limits freedom of opinion and expression. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you some example. Anybody know about Prita Mulyasari? If you don't, it's okay. I will explain about what case happened to Prita Mulyasari. As I have explained about the ITE regulation, which allegedly limits freedom of opinion and expression, Mrs. Prita is a victim of this regulation. Although Jokowi once said he asked the public to be more active in delivering criticism to the government. However, this statement actually contradicts the ITE regulation, which was also established. In the ITE regulation, I once skimmed through a news article, and there is a subsection that prohibits anyone who knowingly or intentionally distribute and disseminate a news that can lead to access to the defamation or even insult. This subsection makes me personally think that is a painful subsection for the people. Why? In the other words, if ordinary people try to deliver criticism to the government or other people, that person will be immediately arrested and secured under this subsection in the ITE regulation. And same with the Mrs. Prita case. She was the first person to stir up Indonesia with the case that happened to her based on the ITE regulation in 2008. In general, Mrs. Prita only delivered a complaint about the Omni International Hospital Service, and then the complaint was spread widely, which in the end made the hospital sue Mr. Prita. Like the news I have read before, Mrs. Prita was charged with a subsection in the ITE regulation, which led to Mrs. Prita being indicted in the end in 2011. Not only that, Mrs. Prita then filed for a reconsideration and was finally granted by the Mahkamah Agung. In 2012, Mrs. Prita was officially freed from criminal snares due to the ITE regulation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this case from Mrs. Prita make us to rethink the correlation between ITE regulation and freedom of speech. Where is the relation? Why, when we try to speak up, we are silenced by the ITE regulation? This is a big question for the government, so that the dreaded subsection should be reviewed or even removed so that this so-called democratic country does not hurt its self-identity and becomes a healthy country that accepts criticism. Well, as a closing speech for today, what we have to highlight for this topic is freedom of speech is to deliver opinion well from the conscience and mind of people. It's not a hoax news season with sensational powder so that it disrupts the wider community, creates anxiety, misinformation, and even create chaos. Nor is it hate speech, racism to curtain ethnicity, races, or religion. But freedom of speech is only the opinion of the people, which means that we just want to be heard. People voice, my voice, our voice, judges' voice, and our input should be considered, not silenced. Thank you, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You may leave the room. You may leave the room.
Hello, good afternoon. Am I audible enough?
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
Okay, let me. Okay, I'm ready.
We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I choose the third topic, which is Asian non-intervention policy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, did you know that Indonesia is actually one of the founder of ASEAN in 1967? During the time, ASEAN is formed to create an alliance or common front to actually facing the threats from communism and also instigating the political and also social economic stability in Southeast Asian region. Now, the members of ASEAN now are almost every country in Southeast Asia, but with the exception of Timor-Leste. The founder of ASEAN hoped that after forming ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries can become developed and also become the leading countries in the world. According to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia in 1976, ASEAN focusing and emphasizing on the rights of state to lead its own affair without the external intervention and also the non-interventional international interventional principle in solving internal state affairs. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, in today's speech, I will talk about three topics. First, the non-interventional policy in ASEAN. Second, the problem of the policy. And last but not least, its solution. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the non-interventional principle is not something new. It is already widely applied in international relations sectors, especially after the Cold War between United States and Russia. Now, during the Cold War, there have been massive intervention in domestic affairs of developing countries by superpower countries such as United States and also Russia. Besides, the majority of Southeast Asian countries were already experienced colonized, and involved in foreign external intervention, thus making them suffer for years. Now, ladies and gentlemen, by making non-interventional policy as one of its core principle, ASEAN can maintain the stability and also peace between the countries in Southeast Asia. This policy also opening the chance for countries to actually prove their strength and their authority by solving their own internal state affairs. The example of implementation from non-interventional policy are first, the prohibition to actually criticize the prohibition of a state to criticize other state action because it's actually breaching the policy. And the second is denying the sanctuary and also support to rebel groups that actually want to overthrow the government of neighboring countries. Non-interventional policy is flaunted by ASEAN as a key of why there is no military conflict between ASEAN members since 1967. But during the implementation, the years of implementation, there comes problem and also critics from experts. Problems such as economic crisis of 1998 and also the humanity crimes that happens in a lot of Southeast Asian countries will inhibit or disturbing the implementation of the policy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the political and also state law experts already criticized the position of ASEAN in this non-interventional policy because ASEAN seems like it doesn't have any authorities to its own members, thus making consensus is such a difficulty, and also we're facing difficulties in tackling security challenges such as cybersecurity and also transactional crimes. And then by this non-interventional policy, it is actually making us Indonesia as one of the ASEAN members seems like a coward who only retreat behind the ASEAN way, if I may say, and also hiding behind the shield of non-interventional policy every time conflict or humanity crimes happen in Southeast Asia region. This policy can also be utilized by the country members for their own advantages to strengthen their regimes and authorities, thus oppressing the citizens below them and causing human rights violation. One of the latest issue regarding to this policy is the Myanmar human rights violation issues that happens under the military regime of Myanmar. In the beginning of 2021, there's a coup d'etat in the Myanmar where military regime overthrow the democratic leaders because of the election result. It results in 700 civilians were killed and also 300 were detained by the police or military. The Myanmar citizen internet connection is also cut off by the government, thus making communication to the outer world, which is foreign countries, seems almost impossible. Now, many countries already impose sanctions on Myanmar, whilst ASEAN can't do anything except warning or making a consensus to cease the violence because of its non-intervention policy. It cripples ASEAN members to actually protect the citizens of ASEAN. Now, how to solve the problem actually? So, for years, Indonesia already proposed to more intrusive ASEAN, but unfortunately, we are accused of proposing our own agenda to the organization. So what should we do? Should we abolish the policy? No, it is impossible because it will change the whole ASEAN principle. First, the ASEAN country members should assess the situation in Myanmar regarding to the human rights violation based on UN International Convention of Human Rights and also international law. Most importantly, we can also involve a neutral third party such as Australia, which is one of the neutral countries that it didn't lean on any superpower countries and also located the closest to Southeast Asia. After it is decided that Myanmar is actually a case that needs to be intervened, Myanmar that doesn't allow to refuse the intervention. Now, regarding the solution, this is actually the best solution because we can actually protect the citizen of Myanmar, but also didn't violate the goal or the principle of ASEAN. And one more, physical and also aggressive intervention should be avoided at all costs because it will be destructive, thus making political intervention such as mediation and also abolishment of bilateral cooperation seems right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe and woke. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You may leave the room.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Excuse me, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay. Can I start it?
Wait for the LO to give you the instruction. Okay, the LO will give you the instruction when to start. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, thank you for the time and opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. Greetings of virtue. Honorable judges and audiences, my name is Aini. I am from Polytechnic of Surabaya. To be honest, I didn't expect that I qualified to the final. For your information, during the preliminary, I borrowed my sister's laptop, and yesterday, after I performed, I gave it back to her. So that's why the day I used my mobile phone. My apologies. I will do my best for today. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, the word of democracy has been sounded countries ago, and many countries are still fighting to start the democracy. So what is democracy anyway? Democracy is not merely to vote of our representative in legislative or to vote for president. Democracy is beyond that principle. Democracy is indeed a set of ideas and principles about freedom. People have the right and free to expose their ideas, thoughts, and creativity. Democracy really stands the human right to live, think, and express their ideas. So simply, I can say that democracy is the institutionalization of freedom. The problem is whether democracy is an absolute term that lets people to express their thoughts without considering other people. Before I come to this, I would like to highlight the democracy in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia has long suffering from totalitarian repressive regime for more than 30 years. And freedom of speech has been paid by the regime. We can't express our thoughts in public domain. However, the fall of militaristic regime in 1998 have brought Indonesia in democratic situation. We don't forget the power of students' protest at that time. This is stepping stone that democracy has begun to live in our country. Indonesia has rule on freedom of opinion, featured in Government Rule Number 9 in 1998 about freedom to convey public opinion, which aims to realization of responsible freedom as one of the exercise of human rights based on Pancasila and Constitution of Republic Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, we have nearly lived more than 20 years. People are free to express their ideas, criticize the government policies, and surprisingly, speech are increasing everywhere. Social media are the most common media to exercise freedom of speech. Democracy is not a system where people can change the situation in a peaceful manner. People tend to force their goals in socratic and anarchy without considering other benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, a few months ago, students throughout Indonesia doing a big demos for the government. During the demonstration against Omnibus Law, they also proposed revising the ITE bill because it was thought that it would hamper freedom of speech. As I said before, social media is one of the most powerful and widely used medium to communicate. And with this ITE bill, we would have difficulty communicating our opinion freely. Therefore, students try to voice their aspiration for revision at ITE bill, especially that are often based on arrest or legal processes based in social media. Demonstration and strike occurs in every corner of the country. Sometimes, sometimes these movements were improperly run, destroying public facilities, fighting against the police, and some people died. From this point, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind everyone, let us fight together to sustain democracy and freedom of speech. Let us make democracy become a peaceful one. No hatred and no anarchy. Democracy needs responsibility. Democracy without responsibility is anarchy. So yeah, finally, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all of my speech. I hope all the problems that are happening in your country can be solved soon. You know, we must be strong enough to deal with them. I hope you're happy and don't miss out here. Democracy, yes. Democracy, no. Freedom of speech, yes. Hate speech, no. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You may leave the room. Okay.
Izin cek suara, Kak. Apakah suara saya kedengaran? Halo? Apakah suara saya kedengaran?
Ya, ya.
Suara saya terdengar jelas ya, Pak?
Ya.
Okay. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
We're gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
As an Indonesian citizen, I can say that I'm proud to be living in this beautiful country. Not only because of the beauty of its nature, but also the beauty of its republic. Indonesia has chosen to become the unitary state, which in this case, it has prioritized democracy and people's opinion. Today, standing in front of you, I would like to talk about the current condition of democracy and freedom of speech in Indonesia. The honorable adjudicators, audiences, ladies and gentlemen. As we all know, the definition of democracy itself is a social and political system of government with the power to protect the rights of individual citizens. In other words, it is a system from people, by people, and to people. There are three aspects of democracy itself. First, institutions of democracy. Second, political right. And the third is civil liberty. That means the rights of people which need to be protected. One of them is freedom of speech. So why democracy and freedom of speech are so important? Ladies and gentlemen, please take a look at the fourth point of Pancasila itself. It is implicit to say that democracy and freedom of speech is a must, because it is part of human rights that have existed even since when we were born. Now, how can the democracy and freedom of speech can be successfully implemented? It can be observed from many things. And two of them are, first, the law and regulation chain. The law and regulation chain are adapted to the dynamic of the people and situations. For the example, in the past, there is no cyber law, or in Indonesian, it is called the ITE regulations. But because of right now, people focus their daily activity on social media, the government created this regulation to prevent any further harms like the cyber bully. The second, the guarantee that they can execute freedom of speech safely. It means that people can have their freedom of speech safely with the guarantee they won't get arrested by the government. Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard about Marsinah case? Back then in the past, the government limited its people's freedom of speech. Marsinah was murdered because she actively took demonstration for wealth of labors. Those cases should not be happening anymore because right now, doing demonstration should be protected by the law. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you the ideal situation on how you can do your freedom of speech in daily life. First, in the family environment. Each of the family members has the same right to express their thought, regardless of their status, whether it's father, mother, or children. So many parents in Indonesia always urge their children to get married at or even before 25. They rarely listen to the child concern about pursuing education, career, or just enjoying their life. Ideally, parents should be more concerned about what their children wanted to do, not just force their wants. The second, in the university environment. Despite students have the obligation to obey the rules of the campus, they also have the rights to express their opinion. As the example nowadays in this pandemic situation, students continue their education through the e-learning system. That means they rarely use the basic facilities of the campus. But why does the tuition fee increase instead of being reduced? Therefore, so many students actively express their disagreement to pay full tuition fee. And this is another thing that the campus should be concerned about, especially in this pandemic situation where everyone is facing the economical problem. Ideally, the campus should facilitate this concern and do not consider this as violations. Therefore, some accident that happened, such as expelling students and giving any punishments for those who are brave enough to speak up about this problem, will not be existed anymore. The third is in society environment. every individual in society is granted the same rights to speak up about anything. For the example, let's take a look at the Omnibus Law demonstration. So many people in almost every part in Indonesia do these demonstrations regarding this issue, for the law can be revised because it harms people, especially the laborers. But the government seems not hear the people's opinion to discontinue this regulation. Ideally, if they still want this kind of regulation to be applied, they should be giving extra explanation to the people, so people will understand and accept it. The honorable adjudicators, audiences, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the democracy application, especially freedom of speech in Indonesia, isn't yet ideally realized. To create ideal situation of democracy in Indonesia, all stakeholders should be responsible. And everyone, including the government, should be appreciate people's opinions more. Well, we have been so serious all this time, which makes me want to say thank you for your attention. My name is Kania from Polytechnic Yogyakarta, and I'll see you on my next stage. Terima kasih.
Thank you. You may leave the room.
Okay, thank you, Kak.
Okay, so the judges, it was the last performance for today.